So yeah, my turn to come and speak now, along with Paul Homer. Paul, just in case people don't know who you are, could you just very quickly explain who you are, please?
Yes, I'm the chairman of the Standards Committee. I've been a surveyor for 38 years, and I am nigh on retiring now, I think, but still managing to do a little bit.
Bless you. Paul gets all the complaints, of course. They all come via Paul's desk as well, so we do get a number of complaints. So I wanted to put this presentation together and approached Paul and said, how did you feel about it? And we put it together. So we're going to present 13, unlucky for some, 13 scenarios, and they are all examples of things that have happened. Many of you will have seen them, have been potentially compromised by these situations. And the reason for doing this is just to remind those who've been surveying for many years that, you know, it's very easy to fall foul, unwittingly sometimes. And for younger up-and-coming surveyors, we've got obviously some students online and so on as well. We want to just try and explain to you some of the things that can potentially trip you up as you make your way as a surveyor. So we will present the scenarios, and then Paul and I will role play each scenario. I'll explain who is taking what role for each one. I'm going to try and trip Paul up as much as I can and be really nasty to him and see how he responds. And then we will reveal a couple of slides, one with a positive outcome to the scenario and one with a negative outcome to the scenario. So if you want to jump in, as any of the delegates want to jump in and say, that's happened to me, this is how I dealt with it, or you handled it differently, we really welcome your input. This isn't just Paul and I you know, talking for the next 50 minutes. So please do feel free to jump in. I must give thanks for the inspiration for this presentation to Captain Bill Wayant and Bob Kissinger. They're both based out in America. And when I was over in Baltimore earlier this year, back in January, they gave a similar presentation. And I rather liked it and thought it's totally relevant. You know, there's lots of things we try and help surveyors with, teaching technical skills and all the rest of it. But this is one of those softer areas, and it's a terribly important area. So let's just give a definition of ethics to start with. Very simple: moral principles that govern a person's behavior or the conducting of an activity. That is an English dictionary definition of ethics. Just want to flash through the Surveyor Code of Conduct quickly. There's a couple of slides here. So this is the IIMS Code of Conduct. Professionalism: a member must have sound foundation in the general knowledge of his or her profession, in addition to appropriate and adequate experience. Objectivity: a member must adopt an impartial and objective approach in all aspects of his or her surveying work. Integrity: the surveyor will not be influenced by outside pressures, seek to reach agreements based on objective conclusions, and not make personal or illegal profit from the sale of damaged goods or materials. Independence: a surveyor will be independent of the client commissioning the survey. And in terms of client relations, a surveyor will never bias or modify his or her professional opinions for personal gain or in response to any form of pressure from whatever source. A surveyor will only undertake assignments for which he or she is properly qualified or has relevant experience in. Don't work outside your area of competency. And a surveyor will recognize that his or her first duty is to the client's instructions and always observe professional integrity. So avoid prejudice and conflicts of interest. A surveyor will avoid any assignment or compensation that would create a conflict of interest. A surveyor will inform a client immediately of any business connection or interest that might influence judgment or impair the independent nature of the assignment. Right, so are you ready, Paul?
Yep, I'm ready.
I have to say, Paul and I have not rehearsed this, so it could go anywhere. We've talked through the scenarios, but we haven't actually rehearsed the role play. So it could be, I hope, a bit of fun as well as trying to get across the serious point. So scenario 1, I'm going to play the role of the client. Paul is going to play the role of the surveyor. And the first scenario we present is a client calls you up, he thanks you for your survey and then asks if you can personally fix the recommendations you've made in your report. So I'm ringing Paul. Hello, Paul. This is Mike Schwarz. You might remember me. You did a survey on my 40-foot motorboat recently. Do you remember?
Yes, good morning to you. Have you got a problem?
Well, no, not really a problem, actually. I thought you were very fair in the recommendations you made. There doesn't seem to be anything too onerous in there, which was all good news. And I'm hoping that you can just fix those recommendations yourself and just put the boat good for me.
No, I'm sorry, I can't do that myself. I'm a surveyor, not a repair yard. I suggest that you either take the boat to to the boatyard where you are and get them to quote, or go to a couple of others nearby and see what the quotes come out at.
Yeah, but you've seen the boat, Paul. You know what the few issues are with it. Surely you can just make those good for me. I mean, what will it cost? 1,000 quid? 2,000 quid? How much do you want?
I'm not even sure how much it's going to cost without going to a boatyard, because each boatyard is different. And of course, I am out of my area when I did that survey.
Right. Okay. So I really can't persuade you just to.
No, I'm sorry, you can't persuade me to do it. Go and get a quote from the boatyard. They should be able to help you quite easily with the report.
Right. Okay, Paul. Okay. Thank you for your advice. Okay. So there's a little role play. Let's see what we think are the positives and the negatives. So, well, the positive is Paul obviously picked up immediately that it's against the code of conduct, which would prevent this from happening. Just a reminder that a surveyor absolutely cannot fix his or her own findings or recommendations that have been made in a report. And of course, there's some common sense here that dictates that anyone can say something needs to be repaired in a report and then profit by arranging the repairs. The negatives. Well, you might refer your client to a repair shop that you own or you have a silent interest in or a silent partnership in. Please don't. You personally take the responsibility for doing the repair and profit directly because, as you would have heard, I offered Paul a couple of £1,000 there for him to do the repairs. And then repair recommendations are added to the report that are not required. I mean, I would hate to think any surveyor would do that. Anybody want to comment on that scenario? And Paul, do you want to comment at all?
No, I'm quite happy, but of course a lot of surveyors aren't in their local yards when they're doing surveys. They can be all over the country, so they wouldn't know, they couldn't go back and do a repair to a boat anyway. But so you must always organise it, you know, the local yard should have first option of repairs, but if they're no good, obviously you've got to suggest 2 others as well to cover yourself.
Okay. Jump in any time, delegates, if any of you want to make a comment or disagree with us or put a different point of view, then please do. So, scenario 2.
Well, I think it's always very good to have some feedback from the yard who's carrying out the repair. I've seen cracks on the boat, and finally they cut it away, and then you can see inside that the actual laminated was not damaged at that point. So that's also a learning curve for the surveyor to get feedback from the yard who's carrying out these repairs.
Yes, it's always good to get that, but if you're not in the right area, you can't do that easily.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Mike, good morning, first of all.
Hello, Mark. How are you?
Very good, mate. Very good. I think the majority of my clients have always just come back to me and said, who do you think is most suitable for doing this repair?
Well, you'll be pleased to hear that's scenario 7 or 8.
Sorry about that.
You're jumping ahead, but that's a good point, Mark. It's a good point.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So let's scope out scenario 2. The surveyor values the boat at £100,000 in his valuation report. The bank, however, wants that reappraising to £120,000 for financing reasons. The buyer or owner comes back to you as the surveyor and asks you to revalue the boat at the higher amount. So in this little scenario, I'm going to play the distressed client who needs a higher valuation, and Paul plays the role of the surveyor. So is that Paul Homer?
It is. What can I do for you?
Well, it's Mike Schwarz here. You recently carried out and provided a valuation on my boat Seamus. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes, yes, I do.
So you came back with a valuation of £100,000, Paul, which seemed fine at the time, but I can't get finance on the boat. I'm going to ask if you can please change that valuation to £120,000 to satisfy the banks and so on. Can you do that?
Can you give me any reason why? What's the difference between now and when I did the survey? Has anybody increased any equipment or anything to give that sort of value?
No, it's exactly the same as you surveyed, Paul. It's not been touched at all. I just need a higher valuation, please.
I'm sorry then, I cannot alter my survey. This is the valuation I did at the time, and unless you can give me a reason to change it, I'm unable to do so.
So did you have any idea about how, or any suggestion about how I go back to the financing houses and try and persuade them? I mean, can you give me some advice on that? Or
it's very difficult because once the report has gone out, it's there in the public domain, so one can't change it. You can only ask the banks if they will allow an extra, 10%, which might help. You want 20%, but they might bend the rules a bit for you, but you can only do that. Or try another bank.
are you sure I can't persuade you in some way to change it?
I'm sorry, this is the valuation I found and worked out, so I can't alter it. Now it's in black and white.
But how sure are you that the valuation is accurate?
Well, I'm very sure, but the only way you can get another valuation, go and find another surveyor. Which,
right,
he's going to come back with a similar answer.
Okay, all right, fine. Okay, Paul, I think that's probably okay.
One point, if you read my report and valuation, it does say in the region of 100,000. Right. And because of that, you could try and persuade the finance company on that basis.
Yes, okay, Paul, fine. Thank you very much. Okay, that's scenario 2. Let's just look at some of the positives. So obviously Paul has gone to a website such as boatsold.com. He's done his homework. He's absolutely sure that he's valued the boat correctly. It's always a bit subjective, valuing a boat. It's not an objective process, but of course there are places where you can go to check the valuation of that boat and be sure that you have got it as close as you can. And also you could take into account the broker's opinion possibly at that point. Just again to keep the broker on your side. That can be a bit of a challenge. In terms of the negatives, well, Paul could have come back and just said, no problem, I'll adjust the report accordingly and put £500 in my bank account and I'll send it over by email now. He didn't. Please don't. It's not a good thing to do. And the broker might come along and say, well, if you don't revalue that boat, it's all going to fall apart and I'm going to lose the sale and therefore I'm going to delist you from my list of approved surveyors. Well, if that's the case, sad, but so be it. I know how hard it is sometimes to get onto the list of brokers. Paul, do you want to comment? Does anybody else want to comment on scenario 2?
It won't be the first time it's happened to me, and it won't be the first time that the boatyards have taken me off their list for 6 months, if that's what they do. But that's a broker's problem, not a surveyor's problem.
Yeah.
But it is very difficult for a young surveyor starting out. This is where the problem lies.
Yeah.
And it's so easy just to say, oh, I made a mistake and I up it. But, once you've made your mind up, you've made your mind up and you put it in black and white. How can you change it? Unless somebody says, well, we've put another £40,000 worth of equipment on it. Yeah. And then you can say, oh, well, I'll do an amendment with that addition.
Yeah. Paul, I missed a question from James on the previous scenario. He asked, would you oversee the repairs for a fee?
Yes, you can oversee the repairs for a fee quite happily. There is no problem with that.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Fee might be very expensive if the boat is still in the south of France. I have to keep going out there once a week to look at it, which I'm quite happy to do.
In exchange for vast quantities of French wine, of course.
Yes.
Okay, so I've got another question here. Let's just pick this one up. James says he's expensive.
Yes, so am I.
Okay, so moving on, let's go to scenario 3. So, client comes back and says, why are there so many recommendations and findings in your report? Can you not eliminate a few of them so I can get my financing through or my insurance through? Yeah, okay, good question. So in this scenario, I'm going to play the role of the client, and Paul is going to play the role of the surveyor again. And it goes something like this. Hello, Paul. This is Mike. I've got your report today, thanks. I've got a few concerns though about it. Can we just?
What's the problem?
Well, I'm just a bit concerned as to how many recommendations you seem to put in there. Could you get rid of a few? I mean, I don't think the bank's going to like this. I think I might have some problems buying this. Can you consolidate some of them into one sentence?
Not really. You can't consolidate. The faults are there one by one. I have noted by the side of a lot of them, this is superficial cosmetic damage, which the banks or finance companies aren't going to worry about.
Right.
It's the main faults that you'll find at the end of the report in conclusions, which will state the main 5 or 6 items which I am concerned about because they will cost you money. And that is how I've listed it, so you can look at it with that in light, so you know what extra you're going to have to pay.
I mean, as you know, Paul, I don't own a boat currently, and this is all very new to me, so I'm very inexperienced in these areas, but it just strikes me, if somebody sent me that report, I wouldn't touch the boat really, because
well, I did send you the report to tell you what is wrong with the boat, and that is the whole point of doing the survey. But I think if you pass it to say a finance company or insurance company, they will not worry too much about it because they can see the main problems.
Okay, I think that's probably role play 3.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at what we said here. So positives or negatives, they're lumped together here. The surveyor goes back and says, yes, I can. But whilst you're here at the boat, because the client's present, let me point out the minor findings, so I do not need to include them in my final written report. Positive or negative? Surely a negative. Anybody want to dispute that?
If you do that, you're leaving yourself wide open for somebody to sue you later.
Yeah, I agree.
It's in the report. That's the most important part of your job, is to make sure you list everything.
So surveyor comes back and says, yes, I can, by consolidating similar findings to make it look as if there are less findings overall. Again, I would think that's negative, Paul.
Yep, very. No.
And point 3, you could simply refuse to amend your report, which is the positive outcome.
It is, but you might have to do it in a diplomatic way to the client, not to upset him by being too abrupt.
Okay, understand. I'm just going to pick up another, I'm not sure if this is a question, let's just have a look. Right, so question, when valuing a boat, what range would you put on the valuation?
Well, depending on the size of the craft and the age of the craft, because if you're playing with a £20,000 boat, you're not playing, you're playing with a couple of £1,000 maximum. When you're playing with a 200, 300,000 pound boat, you can be playing with up to 10%. And if it's a one-off, you've even got a bigger problem, because there is nobody that can argue with you constructively because it's a one-off. But you do have to be more careful with the one-off, because somebody will come back at you if they don't like it.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to prove your figures.
Yeah.
As well as disprove them, of course.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's keep rolling. Scenario 4. The insurance company wants the surveyor to go back to inspect the vessel to ensure your essential recommendations have been carried out satisfactorily. The vessel owner approaches the original surveyor. Let me just admit Oliver into the room. Okay, so I'm going to play the role of the client again, and surprise, surprise, Paul's going to play the role of the surveyor. So hello, Paul. This is Mike here. You surveyed my boat Black Pearl a while back. You made quite a lot of recommendations, which I've had fixed now. They've all been done. But the insurer has been in touch and has asked me for an updated kind of report to confirm that it's all happened. Is that sort of normal?
Oh, yes, yes, that's quite normal for them to do that.
So, okay. I mean, I don't really want to incur too much cost with all of this. Could you just sort of drive by and have a look at it? You don't need to go on the boat, do you?
Oh, no, sorry. Once you've got to go and inspect it, you've got to inspect it. That's what they want. So I have no choice but to go out there and go through it again with all the faults that were wrong to check they've been put right properly.
Well, surely you don't need to get back on the vessel, do you?
Oh, yes. Most important that you go back and look yourself. You can't get anybody else to do it for you. You must do it yourself. That is what you're putting your name to when you do a report.
Right. Okay. So
I'm very sorry, but it means that you're going to have to pay for another survey. It might be reduced in amount, but it's still going to be paid for.
Yeah, that's my concern, really, Paul. I don't really want to incur that cost. You sure you just can't, just say it's all good?
No, sorry, I can't do that. That's more than my reputation's worth.
Okay, all right. I think that's end of scenario 4. Some quite obvious positives. Paul did suggest when we were putting this together that you could refer the request to a local surveyor if you are some considerable distance away. It's possible that you could use the network and find a surveyor who you trust who could actually go and do that work. Obviously, you could attend in person and charge your fee for reinspection. And Paul, would that be a lesser fee or the same fee as the original fee?
Would it be a lesser fee because you're not having to go through the whole boat? You're only having to go and look at 3 or 4 items. Yeah. Of course, the cost of travel and the expense there is still the same. So you've got to go ahead with that.
And perhaps the point that is a positive but might concern 1 or 2 people is that you could instruct the broker technician, or broker, got broker in there twice, to supply repair receipts and verify by video if necessary. Have you ever done that, Paul?
No, no, you still haven't. When you write a report to say, yes, everything's okay, you've got to say you've actually been there and seen it. You can't go off a video because it might be a different boat. You don't know. Mm. So, if you know another surveyor you're happy with, you could get him to check it for you. But your report must state that when you write it back to the insurance company, you say, you weren't able, but so-and-so has been done it on my behalf, and I'm happy with his findings, which you're putting your neck on the noose for what he's seen.
So I got a couple of points that have come in here on the chat. Chris Holmes says, do not accept photos, as I have had photos of a different boat sent to me. Found that out when I went back to view the repairs. So you need to be absolutely sure that you are looking at it, at the actual vessel. Vangelis says, if you find a structural problem and your client withdraws from the purchase, the current owner requests a full recommendation list and oversees the repairs, what is a fair price for that for passing the full recommendation list and not a full pre-sale survey? Does that make sense, Paul?
That is very difficult because it isn't done for him at all. He's got to ask you to do, pass it over. Therefore, you've got to do a structural survey for him. You can't just leave it and say, oh, well, I'll pass these. That's what I found. You've got to be very careful doing that. If it's around the corner, it might be quite easy for you to go and meet him and do it at a nominal fee. But if it's anywhere else, and if it's a major structural problem which you found and maybe a couple of others, therefore, it depends how you've written your report. You might have written up that further attention is required. And that covers you for anything else might be found. Yeah. Therefore, you're not making a mistake. But if you do it the other way, you could drop yourself right in it.
So we've got a couple of negatives on scenario 4. So the surveyor responds and says, yes, sure, just send me the form. I'll sign it off and say that it's all been done. Don't do that. You could return to the boat and prove you were there without checking the repaired items and charge a fee. So you simply arrive and take a selfie of yourself at the boat and say, I've checked it all. That's clearly unethical. And the famous drive-by inspection, well, I drove past in the car, I didn't get out, but it looks all right. So I'll sign it off. Ross Keeble has a question, Paul. Can a surveyor clarify survey recommendations on their own vessel for insurance if they have done the work themselves, if no other surveyor is available or willing?
Well, you can find a surveyor that's willing. You can't do it yourself because that would mean nothing to the insurance company. They need an independent report. You might get a boatyard to do it, but you can't do it yourself.
Okay. I think that concludes scenario 4. Scenario 5, keep rolling. So, will you change the report you did on this vessel some months ago into my name, asks the client. Again, I'm going to play the role of the potential new client. Paul plays the role of the surveyor. Is that Mr. Homer?
Yes, this is Mr. Homer.
Hello, Mr. Homer. My name's Mike. I don't know you, but I'm looking to purchase a boat that you surveyed about a year ago, it looks like, a 50-foot boat, and I'd like to ask if you can transfer that original survey, which I found on the boat, into my name, please.
I'm sorry, I can't do that for 2 reasons. 1, I carried it out with somebody else, and 2, it's a year ago. And a year ago is far too long for a boat. It's got to have changed in some way. I can re-inspect it again, if you like. I'm prepared to do that.
The boat's been sitting on the hard for much of the last year, so I can't imagine anything's changed on it. And how much do you want me to send you to change the report? I mean, what's the going rate?
Oh, there's a lot of damage could have happened in the meantime. Could have had window leaks, deck leaks, all sorts of leaks which have damaged the boat. It's been out in all weathers, so that can damage it. The hull itself might be in a better condition, but without looking, you can't tell. So, as it's a year old, it's got to be a new survey. If it had been 3 months old, that might have been slightly different. So I'm going to re-inspect whatever happens.
So there's nothing I can do to coerce you, just simply to change that and send me a new report electronically?
Oh, no, no way at all. I've made that report at that time, and it doesn't apply a year later.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to have a full survey done.
Yes.
Right. Okay. All right. I think that concludes scenario 5. Quite short and succinct.
I have one comment to make extra to that one. Oh, give you a positive first.
Okay. The report is the buyer's property originally. The surveyor would need a written instruction approval from the new buyer before it can be released. Once permission is granted, the surveyor should reattend the vessel to see what, if anything, has changed over the period before reassigning. Paul was very clear in that. And remember that the dates, the original date, I've got a spelling typo there. What do I put in there?
An S.
Thank you. Why have I done that? Go on, Paul, jump in before or do you want me to move to negatives?
Now, there is one company in the, the sales brokers who insists that the owner has a survey carried out to his boat prior to putting it on their books. But this survey is for a particular reason, so that the new buyers don't have to have a full survey. Because mainly this is on steel boats. And if you do a survey on a steel boat, a wide beam, and it's in the water, and 3 months later, it's sold, there is no reason to do the underwater area again, because it won't have altered in that time if it's just been on the pontoon. So in that case, you could reassign it, because that was the purpose of the survey in the first place. And in some ways, it's a good thing, because the sales yards can sell the boat without having to lift it out the water again. So the new owner goes straight on board, sees all the problems. He's got a list of all the ones underneath, because he's got the copy of the report, and that you could reassign, because that's the system they use. But it's only one group that I know that do that at the moment.
Okay. And of course, the negative on this particular scenario is, sure, no problem, sir. If you can pop £500 in my bank account today, I will change the reporting to your name immediately, and I'll send it over to you. Don't do that.
I like the £500.
Any comments from anybody? We'll keep rolling otherwise. Scenario 6. So the broker or private seller offers you a financial inducement to overlook certain items so that the sale will proceed without a hitch. I'm sure many surveyors have faced this. I'm now going to play the role of the broker who's looking for an easy ride with the vessel, and Paul's going to play the role of the surveyor. Hello, Paul. Good to see you again. How are you? It's been ages.
Yeah, not bad. Thanks, Mike.
Good, good. I understand you've come to have a look at Mighty Mouse, to do a survey on Mighty Mouse.
Yep. Yeah, I've got to come and do that. It shouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, well, to be fair, Paul, I really need to move her on, I mean, gosh, she's not in great shape, but we all know that. It's been on the hard for some time now, so go easy on her and turn out a good report. There's a good chap.
Well, I can only do what I can for you. A report is a report, and it's got to have everything in it that's necessary.
Yeah, I know that, Paul, but we've known each other a long time, so, don't be too hard on her. And let's make sure we can get this sale through, and, I need to earn some commission on this one.
Well, I can do my best, but, I can't leave any items out in it, because if I do, somebody will sue me later. And, yeah. That's an expensive pastime. So now it'll have to be what it is. Yeah, can't do any more. I'm sorry.
You know what I'm saying, Paul, don't you?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying.
But there's no way around it, I'm afraid.
Okay, I don't know who's faced that sort of scenario before. The positives, the only positive I can say is no, I can't do that, which is what Paul was saying. Push back, and the reality again, Paul, is that you leave yourself potentially open to the broker turn around and say, well, if you can't provide a good report, then I'm going to chuck you off my list again. And
well, that is one of the problems that happens. But it depends how you've got to try and be more diplomatic to say, you'll do your best, but it's not going to alter the fact you're still going to put the things in the report. If you start leaving things out to make it sound better, then you're in trouble. You're opening yourself up to being sued. And the surveyor, the broker next time will say, oh, don't use him, he misses things. It's a two-edged sword, that one. If they get upset with you over something, they would down you because you don't do things properly. Or they'll say, you're the easy one. Oh, you'll pass anything. If you want a reputation, which one do you want?
Yeah, I think that's good advice. So the negatives to that scenario, Paul says to the broker, yeah, that's no problem. I'll have to oblige, and don't worry, I'll get it sorted, and we'll get this boat moved for you. Or, even worse, the surveyor says to the broker, well, which items do you want me to ignore and overlook? It seems extraordinary that those sort of dialogues go on, but that does happen, Paul.
All these scenarios have happened. That's the point, and not just once. And it is a big problem for people in this trade.
So be careful, be wary, and push back at the broker. I think that's good advice. Right, let's move on to scenario 7.
That's for you, Mark.
That's for Mark, yes. Can you recommend a repair yard, technician or facility? Says the potential vessel purchaser. Now, I'm going to play the potential vessel purchaser and Paul will play the role of the surveyor. Hello, Paul, this is Mike. I got your survey on Fat Jack this morning by email. Clearly, there's some work to do. So I'd like to ask you if your personal recommendation on where I should take her and which yard do you think I should approach, Paul?
Well, first of all, try where you are. Try the local yard, get a quote off them. Now, if you're not happy, go round to 2 more yards, you know, nearby and get quotes from them and see which you think is best. And that is the main way to go forward. If you have a problem, you can always come back and let me know what's going on and I'll try and help you.
You must know all the yards, Paul. You must know, given this type of vessel, where the best place is to put her, surely.
No, I don't know all the yards, and I only go in them to do surveys. I don't go in them to know how they repair boats or anything else. I have no knowledge of them.
Right. Okay.
Especially in that area, because I'm not in that area. You know, you're in Bristol having this boat done, and I'm in Windsor, you know, where I live, so I don't know the yards.
Right. Okay. So you can't really offer me a.
No, I can't help you there, but go to your main one where you are first.
Okay, Paul. All right, I'll take your advice. Okay, end of that little role play. So I've got a couple of comments that come in, Paul, about the last item. One is fascinating. I had a broker threaten to sue me if I stated the boat was unseaworthy. Needless to say, I stated the actual facts, and I'm still on the broker's list. So one comment. Tim says it is of course possible that a broker or a customer could be testing your ethics in scenario 6.
Quite easy. If you say a boat is unseaworthy, one has to be very careful. What is seaworthy? It's a very dangerous comment. I can tell you a little story, if you like, from a Freeman 30 in Dover. He was there, he'd moored there for years, and he went across to Calais for the weekend and came back, and then he sank in the harbour that night. And then brought it out, put it in the yard, and they said, oh, it's got osmosis, the bottom's fallen off, all of it. And they went to court because he hadn't paid his bills. And the judge said, well, it was seaworthy at the time because it went across the channel and came back. Where, you know, so he said it was seaworthy. Now, we might disagree with him, if you like, because obviously it failed when it got back here. But why did it fail? Because it hit something on the way, because it wouldn't fall apart from just osmosis. So it is a very difficult word, seaworthy.
Yeah.
If it's leaking positively, yeah, you can say it's unseaworthy, but not otherwise.
Okay. Let's just look at scenario 7, the positives then. Paul was trying to sort of say there are several yards that I could call or speak to about the items in the report needing to be repaired, and wasn't letting himself get tied to one yard. Negatives, well, he could have said, yeah, as a company I regularly recommend and use, and just give one option. Obviously, with pretty much anything we buy as an organisation, we'll always look at 3 options before we choose one. And it's not necessarily always on a cost basis, of course. That's the other thing to remember. There could be other aspects to, you know, the quality of service or whatever. And worryingly, you know, Paul could have said, yeah, go to this yard because he knows he has an association, an arrangement, or something, or even a silent interest in the boatyard. Very, very dangerous. All right, let's just pick up a question here.
It is a comment, though, that even as you know yourselves, you recommend a restaurant to somebody and it's changed hands or something and it is lousy the next time you go. So it's the same with boatyards. You don't know.
No, exactly. Ollie makes an interesting point here. Often asked to comment on whether a repairs estimate is fair and reasonable. Often when dealing with insurance claims or doing damage assignments for owners and end up comparing yards, how would you approach this?
Well, if you've got one, you've got to work out from the quotation how many hours they're putting in, and if you have a knowledge of that. Your knowledge in a lot of times isn't enough to go as a surveyor and say, oh yeah, that's fair. You need quite a few years of experience. If you've been a repairs manager for a few years, then you will know how long a job takes. Or so you know if it's a reasonable quote, and you'd know what sort of parts were necessary. But that's an insurance surveyor's job, and there are a lot of them. And if you're not happy with a quote, you can go down your local yard and get somebody you know to give you an idea if they think it's even reasonable, to give yourself a start in doing the job. It's very difficult.
Yeah, good advice, Paul. Let's keep moving. I'm conscious of time. I've got another question here. Let's just pick this one up. Problem is that different yards cost different amounts. Well, you know, that is a problem. And at the end of the day, the buyer, the person buying those services needs to decide what they want to pay, what they're prepared to pay, I suppose.
Yep.
Okay, so let's move on. Scenario 8. Your client already has a boat repair yard in mind for the work based on the recommendations you've made in your report, but you personally know this yard performs substandard work. How might you handle this? So I'm going to play the role of the potential vessel purchaser and Paul the role of the surveyor. Hello, Paul, it's Mike here. I'm looking at purchasing Bright Skies, and I've now decided that, you know, I've got the report, obviously, and I know what's got to be done. I'm going to go and use old Fred's boatyard to make the repairs that you've recommended. My mate says he knows them. He reckons they're really okay, that they're really good. What do you think?
I'm not sure. I don't know that boatyard fully. I would suggest you get 3 quotes, whatever you do, and then go and work out which you think is the best.
Well, that's fine, but my mate says they're all right. So do you think I'll be okay going or taking his recommendation? I mean, he knows a bit about boats.
Well, I never take anybody's recommendations without 3 quotes, because that's when you've got an idea of what it should be. Even if you take the middle one, it doesn't matter, but at least get 3 so you know where you are.
Right. So you just don't know them? You don't know if they do?
No, I don't know them. And in fact, I would never recommend a boatyard or say that it's no good. I just don't know is the answer.
Right. Okay. All right, Paul. Thank you very much. I think that's scenario 8, positives. So Paul acknowledged that in this case you didn't know the boatyard, but suggested that you shop around, or the client shops around. Make sure you're getting a competitive quote for your work, and ask for references. You know, I'm sure before anybody signs up and takes work to a yard, ask for references, understand if they've done something similar to that type of boat before. The negatives, well, Paul could have just said, that's great, I don't know the yard, but if your mate says it's okay, brilliant. Paul could have said, let me recommend a friend of mine, he's really good and he's very cheap, and you know, take your boat down there, he'll do a fantastic job. And of course, Paul could have said, I'd be happy to take care of the recommendations and do the repairs myself, because I know all the faults and it will be fine. Anybody want to comment on that? Paul, do you want to say anything on that?
No, I think that's a straightforward one. Keep out of it. Keep away from it.
And Jason's popped up to say the yard is only as good as its last job. And I entirely agree with that. Okay, so let's move on. Scenario 9. Your client has not seen the boat, is potentially buying the vessel blind, And of course, with COVID going on at the moment, this is a very real possibility. The client will not be present at the survey, but wants to instruct you. What will you do? So I'm going to play the role of the potential purchaser again and Paul the role of the surveyor. Is that Paul?
Hi, yes, that's Paul. What can I
Hello,
do for you?
Paul. My name's Mike. You don't know me, but I've been sent some particulars by a broker on a boat that I think looks really good and I really like the look of. Frankly, I've no intention of looking at the boat. You know, I'd be really keen for you to do a survey on it for me and tell me if she's any good and give me a recommendation if I should buy her or not. Can you do that?
Yes, there's no problem in doing that. I will go through it as best I can for you and we'll do what we can.
Right, okay. So you're happy that I'm not there and you're happy
Yes.
I don't do the boat?
No, I'm happy you're not there. It's not a problem. I will send you my terms and conditions for you to look at as well, where it will cover that I don't guarantee colours that are stated in the report or in the brochure, because colours are only in the eye of the beholder. But the condition of everything else will be stated.
Okay, Paul, that's great, thank you. Now, there's an interesting point I want to pick up in that scenario because I know a surveyor currently who's got a problem with colours. He described the interior of a boat as beige and took a photograph of it. And the person has bought the boat blind, doesn't agree that it's beige and doesn't like the colour of it, having seen it now in real time, and there is potentially a bit of a standoff going off with that one. So, you know, Paul, you were very wise to mention that, I think.
Well, I've seen the difference in colours, even on a white or cream boat. It's very difficult sometimes, you know, is it white gel coat or cream gel coat?
Yeah.
Or off-white? It's how do you describe white? Because there are hundreds of whites.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, if it's been out in the sun, it might be yellowy, so it's cream suddenly.
Yeah.
You have to be very careful on the way you do mention colours.
Yeah, be careful not to fall into that trap. So
Yeah.
the positives, well, Paul could have said, I'm not prepared to survey this boat, as your interpretation could be different from the actual condition of the boat. Paul agreed to take the job on, but that could have been a response. You cannot be the decision maker on the person buying that boat. And as Paul says, you can only provide a factual survey and nothing more. Ultimately, the decision to buy the boat or not blind is not yours, and you shouldn't give any recommendations to that effect. The negatives of that side, well, you could just survey the boat and take the person's money, end of. And that would, I think, be concerning and a breach of ethics. Any other points on scenario 9? In which case, let's move on. Another absent client scenario. I've got a question just come in, Paul. Let me just pick this one up. Okay, Fergus wants to know, what about providing videos and photos? We have got a scenario on that coming up shortly. So if I may, I'll defer to that one.
Yeah.
We'll get to that one in the next couple of scenarios. So scenario 10, the client is not present at the survey. You, the surveyor, discover a number of very serious defects that will almost certainly affect the sale of the boat. The client should be available for decision making at that point. What do you do? So I'm going to play the role of the broker. Paul's going to play the role of the surveyor, and Paul's going to open this one up.
Yeah. Hi, Mike. How you doing?
Yeah, good, Paul.
I've got a problem with the boat owner for the one I'm surveying now. I can't get hold of him. I found several faults, but I can't get hold of him. Have you got any telephone numbers for him or not?
Yeah, hang on, Paul. I've got the mobile for him. Let me just try that. Oh, no, there's no answer on that. No, it's just going straight into voicemail, Paul. Sorry, I don't think I can help you, really.
No, well, he's got several points, but it's still possible to carry on. I'm going to carry on and finish the survey. He hasn't instructed me not to, and he's not available as he said he was going to be. So I'm sorry, I'm going to do it and see what happens.
Yeah, okay, Paul. I understand. Okay, short scenario. Let's just pick up another chat question here. Right, Graham wants to ask, what are your thoughts on having the client present? Are they better meeting once the survey is complete to avoid loose comments and distractions?
Always. I always try and get the clients after I finish the survey. They can turn up afterwards quite happily, and I'm quite prepared to go through the main faults with them. But you don't want them there while you're doing the survey, because they'll be at one end of the boat asking you questions where you've got to keep moving from one end to the other, and you'll lose your train of thought, make a mistake, and then they'll come back at you later and say, well, you didn't tell me about this.
Yes.
Or you've told them about it and you've forgotten to put it in your report, which also happens.
I have to say, Paul, that's something you are very consistent on. You never deviate from that one at all.
Now, I always try and start early, make sure there's nobody there, and make sure the brokers take the clients away. And when they ask me what time I'm going to be there, I never tell them the right time, because I've always been there 3 hours before they even think about turning up. So I don't get caught like that.
Okay, Graham's appreciative of your answer. Okay, let's look at a couple of positives and negatives on this scenario. So positive, you could try to establish contact with the client and record that you have done so. So even though you got a failure to connect with him on his mobile, record the time and say you tried to make contact and so on. That's a sensible thing to do. Well, as we said, contact the broker. I played the part of the broker. On this occasion, I couldn't contact the client. And then if no contact is made, you could continue to complete the survey as per the original instructions, which was what actually Paul decided to do. And I guess that's just a judgment call at that time, isn't it, really?
It is, because I had one the other day where I did stop it because the cost of the repairs was more than the value of the boat, as well as the purchase price. So it was a no-go. It wasn't even a small repair job or a reconstruction that would make it worthwhile. It was a no-no.
So that's interesting, Paul. How did the client react when you gave them the news?
He was quite happy because he's buying a boat for 20,000 and he'd got to spend 15 on it to put it right.
Yeah.
And when you put it right, it was only worth 20 grand.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was not worth going for. And of course, it was local, which was the easy part. I could always go back and finish it.
Yeah.
If it had been at long distance, then I might have had to carry on.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Tim has just popped up to say, back to the last scenario, we're still having the seller there as well as the buyer. So
get rid of them.
So the negatives, possibly of the scenario, you cannot contact your client. You simply decide you're going to stop the survey midway through and you walk away from the job. Unless, of course, it's due to a health hazard, in which case nobody would expect you to continue. I don't know that is necessarily a negative, Paul.
No, unless it's a health hazard. It's very difficult to say a health hazard today because you don't go on board in that case.
Yeah, exactly. Right, time's against us. We've got 5 minutes and three scenarios, Paul. So let's see if we can get through them. I've got another chat question. Let me just pick that one up. Yeah, Elliot just wanted to say, absolutely nightmare being distracted by the client. Yeah, we know all about that. Okay, so scenario 11. You are keen to establish yourself with a local broker. Let's say you're new into the area or you're a newer surveyor and you're desperate to get onto his or her approved list of surveyors. The broker asks you for some sort of inducement. What do you do? How do you handle this? So in this scenario, I'm going to play the role of the broker and Paul is going to play the role of the keen, upcoming young surveyor. Can you remember those days, Paul? Off you go.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, hi, Paul. Yeah, how are you? Good to see you.
Yeah, I've known you for a long time, but I can't work out why I'm not on your list of surveyors. Have I done anything wrong?
Well, no, not really, Paul, I don't think, no. No, I can't honestly say that there's been an issue. I don't know. I mean, you need to pay a fee to get to be on my list, of course, you know that. I charge a member fee.
Oh, I didn't know that. How much do you charge?
It's only 300 quid, but, it's a few
well,
quid.
That's a bit steep, that is.
Well, a few quid in my back pocket. I'll make it worth my while, Paul,
Well, can we do it for 100?
Well, let's split you in the middle, meet you in the middle, maybe 150.
Okay, I'll do a one-off. That's all right.
I'll tell you what you can do for me, Paul, right? This is a really practical thing. You're a member of Winchelsea Golf Club, I see, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, I've been desperate to get in there for ages as a member, but I've never really kind of got there. So if you could perhaps, just see a way to helping me with that, my proposal and so on, and giving me a kind of a, good report, that would be really helpful. And then if you do that, I'm more than happy to put you on my books.
That's a bit difficult, that is.
Really?
Yeah, it's very difficult, that one, because that could be construed as bribery. So I can't drop myself into that one. I can pay a one-off fee, though. That's one thing.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I won't tell anybody, Paul, that you put me up for membership. Nobody will know.
No. It's my ethics won't allow that one at all.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, 150 quid it is then, Paul.
Okay, I'll pay.
Fine. Okay.
Thanks very much.
That's a slightly weird one. So, okay, scenario 11 positive. You flatly decline his or her approaches. And as Paul did, he tried to suggest that I was trying to bribe. You maintain your own silence about what has happened. I think that's quite important. You certainly don't want to go blabbing to everybody about the dialogue you've had. And in this case, the rules of the broker are that you must pay a fee for some notional, to be a member of that particular yard. And Paul, I know this has happened to you historically some years ago.
Yes, it did. It happened to me when I first started many years ago, and it was the owner of the yard who only has his, favourite surveyors who paid him to join. And I didn't find that out to start with, but when I did, I paid up under quite a bit of objections. But anyway, I paid up. But it was the best thing I ever did, because I met two very good brokers who've moved around the country over the years and have kept me on their list wherever they go. So I've now increased my area of surveying. And that was very useful for when I was starting in this world.
Negatives. So you agree to pay the broker for being added to his list. That could be construed if it was not wrapped up as a membership. And I'm not sure that would happen these days like it used to. I need to be very, very careful with that. And as if you were to agree, or if the surveyor was to agree to endorse his or her membership application, I think that is troublesome. I'm not even sure these days about taking in a bag of donuts for the broker and his staff. I think you're probably all right up to 25 quid. But the old days, I was involved in grocery selling years ago, and we'd take all sorts of bribes around for buyers. That's what they frankly were. I don't think that washes anymore. And whatever you do, you're angry with the broker because of whatever, don't go to social media and say that he or she has not been very fair in their handling. Keep a low profile. Again, if anyone wants to comment on that, experiences, that's fine. Okay, 2 to go, Paul. So, information reaches you about a serious situation or a failing as a result of a poor survey caused by the negligence of another surveyor who is not personally known to you. Now, this is a very real scenario, and it does happen. How do you react? So, we didn't actually necessarily have a role play for this. I'm just going to ask Paul to explain how he would react in this situation.
Well, the main way you've got to react is not your problem, basically, but you go get the information from somebody who's going around saying this man's no good, that and everything else about him. Get that person to put it in writing to the organisation that the man belongs to, if he does belong to one. That is one of the problems. It is not up to you to do any more than that. Everybody hears about other surveyors that are doing the wrong thing. That's quite easy because, that's life. There's always something one misses, if you like, when you do a survey. And somebody says, oh, well, he missed this and he missed that. But it's not up to another surveyor really to push you to, along to cause more trouble. Even when he does a survey and finds all these faults that weren't found before. It's up to the person who is complaining or made the complaint to do the right thing and go to the organisation. That's the best way out of it. Don't do it yourself, whatever happens.
Yeah, that all makes perfect sense, Paul. Would you ever contact the appropriate maritime regulator? I suppose in a very serious breach you might. No. Can't persuade you to do that one. Okay. I've had a question actually here. Well, not it's a comment. I've got Tim disagreeing with you, Paul, which is great. So sorry, Paul, disagree. No inducements, no fees. It could be the tip of the iceberg, and people will know that you can be bought. And Elliot says, no, I wouldn't entertain that either. So I don't know if that happens these days. You're going back to a much older time in past and so on.
I got an invoice for it to cover myself.
Okay. Well, okay.
Oh yeah, I got that. I wasn't just paying out money with if somebody wants to have a go. I had an invoice from the yard.
Okay. Interesting. Well, that might change the thinking. I don't know. Right. Let's crack on. Last one. Final scenario. A new client calls you, proposes that due to COVID-19, he or she does not want you to do a physical pre-purchase survey, but he or she will use a live link, in other words, an iPhone or something like that, to show you a video of what you want to see so that you can then write your report on the back of the evidence. So I'm going to play the role of the new client. Paul plays the role of the surveyor. And I open up with, hi Paul, this is Mike. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. What can we do for you?
Okay, we spoke about you doing a survey on Dancing Girl.
Yeah.
I'm ready to proceed with that. But my preference is with COVID and everything else, I don't really want you near the boat. So I'd like to do this remotely. It will save on your travel costs as well, which means cheaper job for me, much easier for you. I'll just link us up using my iPhone and you tell me what you want to see and then I'll pop the phone in there. How does that sound to you?
No. Can't do that at all. If
Really?
I do a survey, I'm signing up to say that I have actually seen the craft and I have found these faults. I can't give you a report by saying I did it. I can do your report saying it's, by video link, but it is worthless, absolutely worthless. I've got to actually see the craft, whatever happens.
But my mate bought a boat earlier in the year and did exactly that with a surveyor, so it must be all right.
Well, if he did that, he's a very silly man because he could have lots of problems, and the surveyor has left himself wide open because he didn't see something, and he'll be sued.
Right. So
then he'll be up before me anyway.
So you're really not happy to do that?
No way at all.
Okay. All right, Paul, I'm just conscious of time now. We need to wrap up. We're running into James's time. So positives. Actually, we can't think of any. Declining the instruction will certainly please your insurer. I've spoken to a number of the insurance companies who we work with, and they've all said, please steer clear of it. You would have to put in so many caveats into your report. You'd have more caveats than you have reports to cover you. So it really is not a place to go, we would suggest. Reporting on something you have not seen does carry an inherent risk. It could increase the likelihood of being sued. And as I said, your insurer will be nervous. That said, I do know people, certainly in the coding area, where a surveyor's gone along and said, you need to replace this. If you can send me a photograph of it, I'm reasonably happy to sign off on that, but that would be on a very specific one-off item and not sort of doing a survey in real time. So, Paul, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, that is the basic. You mustn't do it. It's as simple as that. Because the photographs or the boat might not be the same boat. You don't know.
Well, that's a very real point, isn't it?
Yeah. You go along and do a Princess 32 and it might be a different Princess 32 or even a super yacht. It might be a different model or might be different from what you're really looking at.
Yeah.
So no, don't.
Paul, thank you very much indeed.
That's a pleasure.